Welcome back to the crypto simulation. Tonight I'm going to take a look at the Nasdaq and its relationship to Bitcoin and the crypto market in general. Is there a relationship between the behavior of the Nasdaq and the behavior of the crypto market? We're going to have to explore that in some detail. And could I perhaps construct some kind of idea or metric of Nasdaq dominance? Just like Bitcoin dominance tends to run high when Bitcoin is taking over the space and everything else is kind of stagnant. Could that be the case with Nasdaq too, relative to the crypto market? Let's explore and find out. Just a reminder, nothing here is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. All my price predictions and pretty much everything I say is for educational or entertainment purposes only. You and you alone are responsible for your own financial decisions. I also have a free Telegram group called The Snake Pit. It's spelled a little differently than snake is normally spelled, so be sure to check that out after you're done watching this video. Links in the description below. So this chart represents the Nasdaq on a pretty long timeline going all the way back to 1985-ish to the present day. And you can see that the Nasdaq has been in a pretty extended bull run for quite some time. Really, ever since the 2008 financial crisis ended, the Nasdaq has not had much of a bear market to speak of outside of maybe this leg down here, but that wasn't really much of a correction. If we take a measured move of it, it was only about, having some issues with my ruler here, it was only about maybe 25% or so. I'm not even sure if I could read that correctly. Let's try this one here. Great financial crisis, in contrast, looks like it was closer to like 82% correction. Brutal for the Nasdaq. So we haven't seen a correction like that in a really long time. We are currently looking like we're at the very least putting in a double top, possibly even going higher, which is very, very impressive. Considering that we got all the way up to about 2.5 standard deviations above the mean back in 2000, and we are currently sitting at the same levels that we hit in 2021, more or less. We're, I think, a little bit higher than that, but adjusted for inflation and whatnot, it's pretty much a double top here in February of 2024, and this is also budging its way up to about 2.25 standard deviations above the mean line. I don't expect this to go much higher. I don't. Maybe a little bit. I would be shocked if we end up back here. That is a sign of some pretty crazy behavior considering the economic backdrop that we're facing at the moment. If we zoom in on the Nasdaq, we can see that it is currently stacked above its 10 times 2, which is 20 week SMA, as well as a 40 times 2 or 80 week SMA. This is on a 2-week time frame that we're looking at the Nasdaq on. So that's very, very strong. You know, we could see some more upside here. It's possible we go test this region near 20,000 or get to close to 19,000. I really don't know. Let's just quickly take a look at a few other indicators, and then I want to kind of migrate into what does Nasdaq have to do with Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market. ADX and DI looks really strong. We have some bullish divergence on the ADX. The DI has been putting in higher highs. The green DI has been putting in higher highs. The red DI has been putting in lower lows. So I'm expecting continuation of bullishness. That's what this looks like, unless this goes sideways or something. ADX is a point for the bulls. Average sentiment oscillators also printing bullish divergence, and you can see that this can last for a long time. If you look at the history of the Nasdaq, we spend way more time being bullish than we do bearish. And the bearish periods aren't even all that remarkable, at least in recent memory. Even if you go back here to around .com, yeah, that was probably the most bearish we've been in a while, along with 2008. That was also another pretty bearish time. But yeah, I mean, we're currently putting in another green bubble, and this could last for a little while. You know, this could extend further. And this looks dialed up and strong, honestly. The bulls are firmly in control on the bull bear power trend. I mean, that is just green bars straight up. It's just strength, and the mountains are getting higher. So again, a point for the bull. We have a critical inflection right here that happened in June of 2023, which that was the altcoin reckoning, wasn't it? Nasdaq breaks out, altcoins fell flat. Keep that in mind. And then we started to form a concave up Gaussian channel, and this is a sign of strength. So I don't know. Certainly, this is very interesting to see. We could actually come back up to this log line all the way up here. That is certainly a possibility, and put in a significantly higher high for the Nasdaq. With everything dialed up like this, it's almost hard to see it not happening. What a strong channel this is. The furthest we've ever gone below was to -2 on the linear log channel, and we spent a lot of time in the early 2000s straddling the mean line, and look at us, just went straight up to the +1 in December of 2021, straddled the mean line, bounced off of it, and I think there's a good chance we're putting in a double top here, and that would correspond to a price north of 20K, honestly, and that's insane. So, but there have been times in the past. I mean, look at what happened here. This crazy blow off top that happened. I mean, just a textbook blow off top right before the .com. I mean, we got all the way out to 4 standard deviations off the mean on a linear log channel. That is insane. So don't underestimate the Nasdaq. We could very well possibly even head up, close to 25K or something. I mean, it wouldn't be out of the question. It could happen. Don't write it off. I will say, though, we are certainly getting pretty overheated. You can see the stochastic RSI is pretty much maxed out. RSI is already getting close to the 80 line. But we can spend a really long time up at these higher levels. I mean, look at the amount of time we spent with the stochastic RSI just fiddling around, kind of bouncing around here. I mean, if you look here from about June of 2020 to December of 2021, I mean, a full year and a half bull market. And you could even argue we were in the early stages of a bull market here, or accumulation phase from March of 2019 to January 2020. This is a pretty long time. This is on a 2-week chart for the stochastic RSI to be at top levels. So we put in a really convincing kind of double bottom on the stochastic RSI and on the RSI. So we could stay up here for a while. And that's why I said the Nasdaq could definitely grind higher. We're over the top line on the logarithmic, on the Fibonacci scale. I mean, this is insane. The amount of strength that that the Nasdaq has shown. It makes sense when you think of what the Nasdaq is made up of. I mean, we've come a long way. The bottom was hit in January and February of 2009, and it's just been just a path straight up, just an insane bull market. Now, I want to point something out to you during the Nasdaq's last bull run. Okay. So what do you remember happening when, like, in September of 2020 or November of 2020? These are times when the RSIs, the KZX RSI, kind of took a dip, or February 2021 or May 2021. We know during that time that Bitcoin was an absolute tear, right? So, and now this, of course, correlation does not make causation, and just a little pattern here does not really imply any kind of meaningful trend. But let's take a look at a couple different things. What I'd like to do is look at Nasdaq versus Bitcoin, or maybe we should look at Bitcoin versus Nasdaq. How about that? We'll look at Bitcoin versus Nasdaq and see what the pattern there looks like, and then we can kind of dig deeper. Well, just overlaying Bitcoin with the Nasdaq, as you see here, Bitcoin is in orange and the Nasdaq is down here. This price scale is the Nasdaq. This price scale on the left is Bitcoin. They follow a pretty similar path since 2015 or so. Let's see if we go back further, if that's the case. I mean, wow, look at how similar that is. From Bitcoin's inception to where it is now, it has been tracking the Nasdaq pretty well. So we'd like to know the question, which is how correlated are these two assets? And luckily, we have a way of telling that. So this is the correlation with the Nasdaq. Up top is Bitcoin now on the 2-week. This middle graph is the Nasdaq on the 2-week. And this is their correlation. And overall, the correlation of Bitcoin with the Nasdaq is slightly strong. You can see that it had almost a 90% correlation throughout late 2013 till June of 2015. And the correlation really only started to drop off during the Bitcoin bull market. And it wasn't until around May of 2017 that the correlation started to turn around again, as Nasdaq started to go on more of a tear itself, and we ended up around the bear market, kind of like heading into that bear market with another slightly strong correlation. And then as we went into 2020 and Bitcoin started to get very bullish again, we noticed that the correlation kind of dropped off a little bit. Bitcoin was more bullish than the Nasdaq. And then we kind of once again, had a very strong correlation, and we find ourselves dipping again. Could this be a sign that Bitcoin's about to enter into its mania phase? Oh, there's August 2024. that was the prediction that I made. I'm very, very hesitant to make predictions, but I am predicting a summer top for Bitcoin. Will it be the top? I don't know, but I am predicting a major summer top. And I almost wonder now, 2 data points does not a strong correlation make, but you also can't ignore them either. So interesting, right? We see a little bit of a trend that as Bitcoin went into its mania season, it started to like head into that mania season, maybe the like early stages of it, the correlation with Nasdaq kind of dropped off, and then we started to see it pick back up again. So I'd like to take a closer snapshot of maybe Bitcoin versus the Nasdaq and, make sense out of some of this data we're seeing. And this probably doesn't surprise you because Bitcoin is a more risky asset than the Nasdaq. So you can see that during mania seasons, Bitcoin outperforms the Nasdaq, but then during bear markets, the Nasdaq outperforms Bitcoin. Bitcoin outperforms the Nasdaq. Nasdaq outperforms Bitcoin. Bitcoin outperforms the Nasdaq, and you just see right now we're kind of crabbing against the Nasdaq. So, we're also our moving averages are kind of like trying to still get organized. We've got the 20 times 2, right? So the 40 week, which we're trying to look like hold that as support. We've got the 200 week right here. The 400 week is way down here. Don't think we're going to be going there anytime soon. And then this is the 100 week, which has kind of come down. So these are all still getting kind of sorted out, before we get a nice mania run. Who knows exactly when that's going to be. I'm still sticking with August of 2024-ish, around there, as my base case for at least a major top. I could be completely wrong about that, and I'll admit it if I am, or I'll pivot if I see something different in the charts. But anyways, you can see that the Nasdaq offers better protection during downtime, certainly than Bitcoin does. Not surprising at all, because once again, Bitcoin's a riskier asset. So my question is, does Bitcoin kind of behave a little bit like, say, Ethereum to Bitcoin, right? So like, is Bitcoin to, let me say this again. So is Nasdaq to Bitcoin as Bitcoin is to, like Ethereum, for instance, or as Bitcoin is to altcoins? Let's take a look. So what I have here is Nasdaq Dominance, and this can be easily created. You just take Nasdaq and divide it by the sum of the Nasdaq and total market cap for crypto. And this would be like pretending that Nasdaq was part of the crypto space, which it isn't, but all markets are interconnected. So notice that we had our first really major spike in Nasdaq Dominance in January of 2015, which corresponded more or less to the end of the bear market from the 2013 bull run. And then look at this incredible drop in Nasdaq Dominance. It took us all the way down here. Now I don't have, for some reason, I can't get number values on the right side to properly quantify this, but you can still visualize it. What did this correspond to? December 2017, January 2018. That is the end, or the blow off top, of one of the most manic Bitcoin runs ever. And then we bounced out of that. Nasdaq Dominance put in a double top. This first top was the bear market, the beginning of the bear market, the bear market for Bitcoin. And then this drop in Nasdaq Dominance was during that bounce out in early 2019. And then we put in a double top March of 2020 on the COVID drop. And then we had another major leg down. And this leg down was diminished compared to this one by quite a bit. And this one had a double bottom, which corresponded to our double peak in Bitcoin. You can see how Nasdaq Dominance went up in the summer lull. And then during our Bitcoin bear market, Nasdaq Dominance kind of crept up, and now it's starting to fall again. So where might this go? This is probably going to be a long-term bleeder, but we don't know that for sure. We really don't know how this is going to behave. Now, using my confirmation bias of our cycle ending in August, you can see I drew a little arrow for Nasdaq Dominance to basically map out a likely trend for it. And it doesn't seem totally unreasonable with diminishing volatility, does it? That might correspond to a major top for Bitcoin. Again, I'm not calling it the top. It's just I'm thinking that that's what's likely to happen based on everything that I've been noticing going on in the economy and what I've noticed with the Bitcoin metrics that I talked about in my video, my August 2024 Bitcoin video, which I'll link to this one after I'm done. So you can see that Nasdaq Dominance behaves a lot like Bitcoin Dominance. It's a long-term bleeder, but when Bitcoin is strong, Bitcoin outperforms the Nasdaq, just like when altcoins are strong, they outperform Bitcoin. Or Ethereum is strong, it outperforms Bitcoin. So you can see kind of the relationship. Bitcoin is like the altcoin space, or crypto in general, because this is not Bitcoin. This is crypto in general. This is Nasdaq divided by Nasdaq plus total. This is not just Bitcoin. But the whole crypto space is basically one giant altcoin to the stock market, and in particular the Nasdaq. So, what would be kind of interesting to do would be briefly to look at the S&P versus, let's look at the S&P in the same kind of way. Let's get S&P dominance relative to crypto. Not a very surprising result at all, considering that the S&P contains the Nasdaq. So, yeah, I mean, like, you see this major drop and then a less rough drop and now kind of a puny little drop. We don't know how this is going to resolve, but I would imagine less dramatically than this one with, again, that diminishing volatility. So what I think you're going to see happen, and I know you don't necessarily want to see this happen, but you're going to, as you see you already have the Bitcoin spot ETF. We're very likely to get an ETH spot ETF, and who knows what other spot ETFs might come our way in the crypto space. But I think that you're going to see that it's a lot harder to make life-changing gains in crypto this time around than it was in the past few iterations. And in future, I think in the future you're going to see crypto start to behave a lot more like the stock market. That's actually a good thing. It's a bad thing for our wallets, but it's kind of a good thing in the sense that crypto will start to become a more legitimate space as it's recognized by Wall Street, which kind of, ironically goes against the very ethos of crypto. Crypto is all about decentralization. But maybe there's just something about human nature that kind of brings things back to some kind of equilibrium, even if we don't necessarily enjoy it. So that's pretty much where I'll leave off for tonight, as far as Nasdaq and S&P dominance goes. Just a reminder to join my free Telegram group at the Snake Pit, and please remember to like, subscribe, and comment if you have anything to add, if you agree or disagree, or just have any questions or suggestions. I welcome those down below, and I will see you here again next time. Bye.